All right, we are live. Let me make sure we're on the group right, just to double check. Make sure that we're here. Oh, yep, we are completely live. There is my face. That's the face. Thank you.
Good face.
Make sure we're on the group right, just to double check. Oh, no. Let me take that. I heard myself feedback. Okay, perfect. So we are good on that. Let's let a couple people trickle in. You guys, we have Tracy Wolff and Micheline Ryckman with us, and we're so excited to be talking about their amazing books. We have Crave, which came out the 7th, which was, what day is today? A couple days ago. And we have the Maiden Ship, which is so exciting, and like, oh my God. Okay, now I'm fangirling. I've been talking to you for the last few minutes, and now I'm panicking. It's fine.
Very sweet.
Are we able to see the people who joined too, or no?
I'm going to be showing some of the comments like this. Here we go. But if you have it pulled up, otherwise it's not really going to show anything unless it's on here.
Okay. Oh, there's somebody who popped up. Hi.
There we go.
Yeah.
For some of you, if you want your name to be shown whenever you join in on the live, you've got to accept. There we go. Okay, I've got it.
Oh, well, we are ready too, Taylor. Thank you. Your hair is gorgeous, isn't it?
I'm going to try to keep up with comments to make sure that you guys can see them when they pop up. If we have any time for any questions later on, we can pop those up for whoever's watching. But otherwise, we can get started. So let's see. How do we want to do this? This is our first live with you guys, so guinea pigs. Okay, so just to give everyone watching just kind of like a hint on everything, we're doing a hunted panel. So both of these books have kind of like some high stakes danger happening in them, whether they're wanted or not. So for Crave, which came out this week, it is a story of Grace and Jackson. Grace is just lost her parents and is going to a boarding school up in Alaska, which is really cold and very something she has to get used to. But there's a lot more than just the cold to get used to in the boarding school. We have a lot of different types of creature feature people and very dangerous, hot, wonderful people as well. And Grace has to kind of like find her way around with all of this danger, and it's wonderful. We also have the Maiden Ship, which is one of our features from our March box, which we're super excited about including. It's a story of Dane. I'm trying not to talk fast. I'm always a fast talker. It's a boy named Dane who was raised on a ship with his father, and he has to kind of like take over the ship, and everything that he's believed to be his life story is kind of like just, there's a lot of mystery that's happening. There's a lot that he doesn't know about, and why he grew up the way that he did kind of like changes. And here enters Sable, who is supposed to be, just a little ship hand help, and all of a sudden she like rocks his world. No pun intended with the ship. But we have these kind of like, scary moments. There are some creatures named stalkers, which we'll get into a little bit later on in the questions. And they go on this epic ship adventure to try to find, I'm trying to word this in a correct way, if not to try to find a point of destination.
How do you do this?
I'm like, how do I not do spoilers of anything? But they go on an epic journey, and both of them have a lot of preconceived notions about the other and have to work through that. Let's see here. Okay, so let's start with our first question. The first question that we have to ask every author is, what would your two main characters be doing during quarantine?
You want to start, Micheline?
Oh, yeah, sure. Well, Sable would be making Dane study and learn stuff. It'd be really boring for him, poor guy. Yeah. The whole time, it'd be like, oh yeah. It would be very fun.
Oh my goodness, poor Dane.
Yeah, exactly. I know. I felt kind of bad when I thought of that answer.
I think Jackson would probably be spending an awful lot of time biting Grace, and I don't think Grace would mind.
Well, we're kicking this one off to a great start. I wanted to make sure this is the first question for all of them.
I don't think anybody would be bored.
Oh my goodness. It sounds like Grace is having a lot more fun than Dane is right now.
I'm sure Dane will catch up.
Oh my goodness.
Once the books get put away.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe.
Brittany.
I'd rather be bitten, let's be honest.
Okay, so moving on.
Okay.
What got you into writing, and what made you make the decision to become an author?
You go first, Tracy.
Me?
You're the, like,
I always say I've been writing since I understood that letters made words and words made sentences and sentences could tell stories. But I can tell you, like, the exact moment. I'm one of those people. I remember it so clearly. We were living in San Francisco at the time, and my parents had gone in to see about I think whether a loan for a mortgage for the house when we had moved there, or a car loan, something like that. And they had left me in the car because I'm old enough that was back in the days when you could do that. And are you guys getting feedback, or can you hear me? I'm getting weird.
we're getting
A little bit feedback.
Getting a little weird, huh? My children probably got on the Wi-Fi without permission. So anyway, I was reading a Judy Blume book in the back of the car, and I finished my Judy Blume book, and I didn't know what to do. So I looked around, and there was a notebook and an aquamarine colored marker, and I remember it very clearly. And I wrote my first story, and it had a prince and a rainbow and a leprechaun of all things. And from the moment I wrote that till like now, I've never wanted to do anything else.
No,
Aw.
I love that.
And I was like 7.
Aw,
I love that.
that's so cute. I wish you still had the story and you could share it.
Yeah, I was
I
gonna
kind
say,
of do too. And like,
where
I'm
can we
like, my
find
mother
this?
is
Is it on
not
the
my
black
mother is
market?
not one who saves anything. So I am pretty sure it
Aw.
was probably gone 3 days later. But yeah, I just that's what I remember about it. That it was written in aquamarine marker, and there was a prince, and of course he saved the heroine, and there was somehow an evil leprechaun in a pot of gold.
Oh, that's awesome. A prince,
All
a
right.
rainbow, and a leprechaun. That's so sweet. I was old when I started writing. So for me, it's only been a few years, so I'm really new. So actually, when I heard I was going to be on a panel with Tracy, I kind of panicked because I went and looked at her stuff, and I was like, "Holy crap!" And I just did one.
Hey, but it's a really good one. That's what matters, right?
Right.
Anyway, so for me, it came out of for the last like 6 or 7 years, I've had really bad health problems, and that's been a big struggle. And a lot of dealing with the health was drawing and art for me because I'm an illustrator too. So, but then in the midst of that, I injured my drawing arm really, really, really bad. At the same time as being really ill, and I was just literally falling apart, like just falling apart. And the only way I can stay healthy mentally is to have a creative outlet of some kind. And so I started this story like 21 years ago when my daughter was a baby, and then I left it behind because I had kids and life got really busy, and I started another business and I was doing all kinds of stuff. And so here I was, I had no arm and I had no body to use very well. All I had was my mind and my one arm. And I went back to the story. I had saved it for years, like it was just sitting there for years. So then I went back to it and started writing it again. And I mean, it took me a year to write one draft. It was a long process, and I did it all with my non-dominant hand, one hand, typing on the computer. And but anyway, that's how I came to writing. It was just a form of saving myself. And it gave me a reason to get up every day and a reason to keep going. So, and I still have health problems and I'm still struggling, but I'm still writing new stuff now. So that's really exciting.
That is really exciting.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad you had your non-dominant hand.
I know, right?
Because you had like this amazing book out of it. Totally.
I know.
Yeah, I'm super
But now
impressed. Wow.
Now you can use the phrase like, "Oh, I wrote that book with one hand tied behind my back."
On my back.
I did.
You
I
did.
literally did. Yeah. So it was very slow and very, very long, but I did it anyway. It was great.
That does remind me, there's a thing going around right now with everyone being quarantined, and it's a big image that says, "Remember when things got rough that you turned to the arts," because everyone is going to like drawing and hobbies and reading and movies. I love that though. It's not like, obviously it's not a good situation.
I'm sorry, but which one of you has time for that? Because I'd like to know the secret. Even
Thank you.
quarantine.
You know, I'm getting less writing done. I'm supposed to be writing the follow-up to Crave. And I keep waiting. Like, all these people are so bored and they've binged everything. And I'm like,
I haven't watched it.
I want them. I mean, I have 3 kids at home, and I mean, they're teens, so they're not, thank God they're not little, because I would probably lose my mind. But,
I have a 2-year-old.
but you know, between schoolwork and then launching a book and feeding them 3 times a day.
Oh
my God. I mean, I always fed them 3 times a day, but it just seems different. You know what I mean?
But only on the weekends.
Somehow the dinner table and the breakfast and the sandwich to lunch, and you were good. And now they're like, I want pizza.
Oh my goodness. Okay, let's do the next question. So the next one is, are you more of a plotter or a pantser? For those of you who don't know what that means, it's someone who plans out the book, or someone who like flummoxes by the seat of their pants. So what type of ways do you guys write?
Okay, it's your turn to go first.
I'm a plotter. I spend a long time figuring it out before I do it, but then I give myself lots of leeway to be free within that, you know, framework. But I find if I don't lay it all out for myself, I just get lost during the process, you know. So but I came to being a plotter really slowly too, because I'm still learning. So I wouldn't say this is what I've always done and will always do, because I don't really know yet. It hasn't been long enough to know, but I think I'll stick more with that than just sitting down and making it up as I go, just because I think I get lost. I don't think I'm organized enough. No, I'm just old and I'll forget everything, actually, to be honest.
To be fair, right?
Yeah, because like I have grown kids. Like my kids are, you know, like in their 20s. So it's like I'm old. I feel very old.
I don't know if that's an old thing, because if it's not on my Google Calendar, it doesn't get done.
Right. I never used to have a calendar, and now I have to have a calendar for everything, because it's the getting old thing, I guess. Or too busy. I don't know, but I don't remember anything anymore. I'm like, was I supposed to be doing that? Oh crap.
We have like 12 different calendars at this point.
Oh,
Our calendars have calendars. I don't know what we would do. Huh?
Are they color coded and everything?
Yeah, of course they are.
They are.
I've never been like, to answer your question, planner or plotter, right? I'm a plotster, I guess you would say, but I've totally never been the one who like plotted everything out. Like, I just discovered happy planners, for example, and stickers, and I'm so excited. Have you guys seen them? They're so fun. The happy planner, they're really cool. They're like, you guys have to look them up when you're done here. And anyway, I now have a sticker addiction that is out of control. But you know what? It's my happy place. But when it comes to writing a book, I have like the worst process in the world. And I mean, I had a friend point out the other day that everybody says that about their process once they kind of get their process down. And you're right. It does take a few books to kind of really figure out what it is you do. But yeah, no, my process is really bad. I start with character. So I write the first 3 chapters, and that's when I get to know my characters and kind of know who they are and what they want and all of that stuff. And then I have to like leave it alone. Like, and I leave it alone for like usually weeks. Well, and I do like a bunch of other stuff, whether it's like working on revisions for a different book or I don't know, whatever it is I do. And then I kind of just mull it over in the back of my head and it starts to come. And then somewhere, usually about 2 weeks before deadline, I swear to God, if I'm lucky, 2 weeks before deadline, it kind of comes together in my head. And then it kind of all pours out. And I write the whole book in like 2 weeks, which is not something I recommend to anybody because by the end, especially as I'm getting older, I'm like all hunched over and I can't walk because I haven't moved
I
in
could
hours.
physically. Are you kidding me? Oh my gosh.
And you don't sleep anymore. And I used to be able to do that 10 years ago. And now I'm like, it's a lot harder not to
relate to this so much.
And so, oh yeah. So that is
I'm that
really
person
bad
that stayed up
process.
until like 3:45 last night to finish the project I was on because I refused to quit.
Yes,
And I have regretted
is-
it since I woke up at 8.
Yep.
So
I had midnight where I would, because I write best at like 4:35 in the morning to like 9, 10 in the afternoon. And so I was always really resentful when the book is going well, when I have to like stop and take the kids to school and make lunches and do all that stuff. But I totally usually go to bed at 3 or 4 in the morning, and then I'm up at 5 or 6, and I'm like, why did I think this was a good idea? And I do this for 2 weeks, and then I'm like, this is the worst thing. I'm never doing this again. I'm gonna start earlier. I'm gonna make it better. Damned if I don't do the exact same thing every single time. It's what I do.
Wow. I couldn't.
If
I
I'm
couldn't.
not, that's what I've done. So,
okay, so the next we have a lightning round. We'll have another one later, but we're gonna do our first lightning round. I'm just gonna give you a couple things, and you just kind of pop out the first answer you have. We can go. We can start Micheline to Tracy this time. We'll switch it next time. Okay.
okay.
Okay,
Got it.
Tell me what to do again. Explain that.
Lightning round. I'm just gonna say some quick like one-liner questions, and you just say the first thing that pops into your head. And
Okay,
it'll
sorry,
be
it's a little bit backbeaty, so I couldn't hear you. Okay.
got it. Oh, there we go. Okay. So, meet your favorite author or meet your favorite character.
Author.
Character.
Okay. Be mysteriously cursed or stuck in a school of creatures that want to kill you.
Cursed.
Stuck in a school of creatures that want to kill you.
Wow,
That was not even hard. That was so hard to predict, that one.
We know why we write what we write.
Right?
We're obviously.
Bow or
Wrote
sword?
the right book.
Sorry, say it again.
Bow or sword?
Bow.
Sword.
Vampire or werewolf?
Vampire.
Vampire.
Okay.
Go figure.
Dragon or mermaid?
Mermaid.
Oh, I've read both. Don't tell me that. I love them both.
Okay.
Dragon.
Oh yeah, I go with the dragon.
Sorry.
I tried.
Okay. Zombies or ghouls?
I couldn't hear you. I'm sorry, there's feedback and I missed it.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Mostly.
Okay. Zombies or ghouls?
Oh, ghouls.
Ghouls.
Gotcha.
Zombies are terrifying. World War Z was a very, very, very scary movie. Oh, good.
Yeah.
Because they were fast.
Yes.
Horrifying.
It was really awful.
Unlimited free books or living inside your favorite book?
Living inside my favorite book.
Oh yeah, no, unlimited free books. My best friend just wrote that book of living inside her favorite book. Yeah, it's amazing, and it's like, yeah, no, thank you.
All of my favorite books have the worst places. I would die.
I've always loved Lord of the Rings, but I was like, I would never survive there. I would never. I would hide in a hobbit hole and never leave the Shire.
Exactly. I always say I want to go first in a zombie apocalypse. I don't want to just kill me. I tell my sons all the time because I have 3 boys. Just take me out
leave me
early.
behind.
I'll just slow you down. It's fine. You totally have my permission.
Favorite book as a film or favorite book as a television series?
Television series.
I don't know. Well, film. Let's go with film.
Okay.
Then it's all in
Library
one
or
piece, you know?
yeah. Library or bookstore?
Library.
Bookstore. I love the way I love the way they smell. Right? I don't know.
Yeah.
I think bookstores smell better than libraries. It's the new food, I think. I don't know. Just love the way they smell.
Last one. Not allowed new books or not allowed to reread?
That one's hard.
You're mean.
What? How can we choose?
Look, guys, I'm just the moderator.
That's what they all say.
Yeah, maybe not allowed new books.
I think I'm going to go with not allowed to reread. It's awful though.
I don't know if I could survive without my favorites, but at the same time, like
What? Like
replenishing.
you never ever
I
get a
can-
new
I can
story?
deal without
I don't
rereading.
know. That was mean. I don't like that one.
It was.
Neither. I choose neither.
Okay.
Okay. That's all this
So
for now.
both of you have books that have high stake danger in them. So I have it as, can you talk to us about the importance of having supporting characters and like who was very important to you building as a supporting character for these people that are in high stake danger? Like in the Maiden Ship, we had a supportive crew that was there to like support Dane get through all of these challenging times. And then we also had Macy and sometimes Flint to be there to support Grace as she was like entering a school after her parents passed away. So like how important was building these supporting characters for you guys?
Who do you want to go first this time?
Go ahead.
It's yours.
Ensemble casts are probably one of my favorite things in the world to write. I've given a lot of different talks on writing an ensemble cast. I had a friend of mine several years ago who came up with something she called the cast of 8, which is that if you look at any books that really nail an ensemble cast, they all have the same character types to a certain extent. And I won't bore you with all that, but I think supporting characters are incredibly important. I think like one of my favorite supporting characters in Crave is actually Mackay, who is one of Jackson's best friends. And he's just, yeah, I just really enjoyed writing him because I just think he's a really good guy. He helped give extra moments of levity when they needed to happen. No, I think supporting characters are incredibly important. And yeah, I loved writing all of them. Macy, Flint, there's a couple more you're going to see more of in the next book. So yeah.
I think the nice thing about supporting characters is they give your protagonists pushes and pulls, right? Like they shove them in certain directions, or they try to hold them back, or they create tension for you in different situations, and then sometimes they create humor. So if you didn't have them, I honestly think your protagonist would be way more boring.
Oh yeah, of course.
I know that sounds weird, but because you are making this book about a certain protagonist, but I honestly think he would seem not as interesting without his cast around him. So I feel like they add, I don't know, like, you know, when you're making food and you're putting different spices into the food, I feel like supporting characters add that spice to a story, or that sweetness, or that, or whatever, along with obviously the antagonists too. But I think all of it together makes a recipe, and without them, it would be just dull.
Well, I mean, think of like any big series, right? You've got the main characters, but it's very often the supporting characters that get all like so much of the love, right? Because everybody has a, I mean, of course you love your hero and heroine. Everybody knows that. But then everybody has a different favorite supporting character, right? One that like speaks to them or is the right kind of spice, as you put it, or whatever it is. And yeah, they totally they let you explore more things in a way that that a lot of other that you can't do with your main characters, right? Because you have certain goals they have to meet, you have a certain plot they have to go down, and your supporting characters, whether they're there the whole time or just come in a little bit, they give you a chance to explore a lot more things. I think that's really interesting with them.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah, I'm definitely that reader that always ends up loving supporting characters more than the protagonist a lot of the times.
Micheline, who do you think was your favorite supporting character to write about?
What too? Mo and Toph were my favorites. Mostly because I loved coming up with the things Mo was going to say. But in terms of personality, Toph was my favorite because he was cranky and then he was happy and then he was, he was all over the place. And I love that he wasn't just one thing. And so he was the most fun for me to write, but Mo's dialogue was the most fun for me to come up with. So
have you ever watched the Disney movie Atlantis?
Sorry,
ever watched what?
Atlantis?
Atlantis Disney movie.
Yeah. Oh, the Disney movie. Yeah.
The cook, the one that's kind of like, I got your 4 basic food group. He reminds me of Toph so much.
Yeah.
I loved him instantly.
That's awesome.
Yes, that's a really good comparison actually to Toph. It makes me feel like that. And then I feel like Toph has this really like mysterious past that you kind of just hear about him bragging about, but you don't actually know who he really was way back when, right? Compared to what he is now. So he was just a delight, like just so fun. Yeah.
Yep.
That's awesome. I wanted to say, because somebody had put up that the last series they read by me was the My Shake and Dirty Boys, and that was actually for the same publisher that I'm doing Crave for. I haven't written for them since I did the Shake and Dirty Boys, and I love them, and I'm so excited that you remember them. I had a lot of fun with that series. So thank you for reading, and thank you for being interested in Crave. I appreciate it. And then do you want me to answer which Makai is one of my favorite supporting characters. I just thought, and I really like what I'm doing with him in book 2, which I can't talk about because my publisher is like, you can't talk about this. But I also am really intrigued by a character who, if you read the arc, she's not even in the arc. She's only in, we did 3 chapters at the end of the book from Jackson's point of view. And I put a character in there that's going to feature really heavily in book 2, and her name is the Bloodletter, and she trained Jackson for much of his life, actually, and she is the most vicious vampire in existence, pretty much, and I won't say any more than that, but she's one of my favorites, and if you read Crave, you'll totally see why. And it's not her viciousness that I love, because I'm kind of a marshmallow, but
let's see. Brittany, we could probably skip the next one because that kind of came with it, huh? So
I thought you took my question.
No.
I was like,
part of it.
Okay. Fine.
We just moved to the next one.
If you had to describe your book in one sentence, what would that sentence be?
Go ahead, Trace.
The elevator speech.
Okay. It is a fish out of water story. Oh my god, that's a second. Oh my god. Okay, it is the story of a young girl who is on her own in life, who ends up at this academy and bites off literally way more than she can chew.
Good. That's good. I wrote a sentence before, but it actually doesn't. Well, kind of describes the book for me, but maybe not for the reader. But is that okay?
Yeah.
So the sentence I wrote is, "Home is where the heart is, and family is not always blood."
I love that.
So they're both like universal truths, but they're also very personal truths in my journey in my life, and it's really what my whole book is about. So yeah. So so home is where the heart is, and family is not always blood.
No.
Yeah.
And I love family is not only blood. That's like one of my favorite themes to explore in what I read and what I write. You know, it's just such an important and heartwarming and just, I don't know. It's just a great theme, I guess is what I want to say.
Yeah.
Okay.
It is. Yeah.
So now we're going to get to a couple of questions that are specifically for you as with your own book. So first we're going to have Micheline. So I'm going to read it so I don't mess it up because it's a lot of information.
Okay.
So as a question on world building, how did you plan out the lore of your world? And the Maiden Ship were introduced to a history of magic, deep-rooted stories from the past that majorly impact the future, and you're introduced into things that Dane was never even open to. So what inspired this lore for you, and how did you keep it from overwhelming the reader discovering a new world?
This is a hard question. When you guys sent it to me, I was like, oh wow, I don't
Well,
know
we're just
how
gonna
to answer this question. But I thought about it lots and tried to it sort of came back to my theme and the point of why I was writing it, but a lot of things. But it also came down to my my own personal life and faith too. So I live on a farm. So my life is mostly like hay and animals and gardening and orchards and all that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of being in touch with creation and nature and all of that here, right, in my life. And I felt like I really wanted that to come into the story, which is so funny because I live in the mountains and a farm, and I wrote a book about
the sea
and the ocean, which is like the complete opposite to what I live. But I still felt some of the same themes sort of fit into the lore and the history and the world building. The theme of like the magic, being in touch with the nature creations, and that comes in more in the second book than in the first book. But that's kind of where that inspiration really came from, that for me, and the only way I kept it from not overwhelming the reader was because of my editor because he protected me from doing too much. I love world building and I love the lore and I love the magic systems, and gosh, I could go on and on about it in my books, but my editor held me back.
Seasoning.
Yeah, he's like, okay, you need to spread this out a little, right? So he forced me to spread it out throughout the whole series, not just in the one book. So that's how I managed to keep it more under control. Otherwise, I would have been so excited I would have been sharing it all right away. But I'm really enjoying it come more to life in the second book. Like, it's really fun. Like, I love that part so much. So I don't know. Did that answer the question very well? I don't know.
It did. The importance of a good editor.
Yes.
No, that's wonderful.
Okay. You had kind of gone in and out for me on the question. So I know the question is obviously about world building, but is there a specific part of it?
Brittany has the specific question for you in your book, so we're gonna.
Okay.
We're gonna go back and forth.
World building my bad dude, so yay.
So Tracy, we've seen on social media that you're portraying Crave as being as bringing vampire love back to the world. Which vampire characters and loves inspired you to bring your own version forward with Jackson and Grace?
This is actually a really interesting question because I've always wanted to write a vampire book, but I've always been terrified to write a vampire book because there are so many amazing vampire stories out there, right? I'm a huge Buffy the Vampire Slayer fan.
Yes.
Obviously Twilight. Dracula, the original, I read when I was like 16 years old, and fell in love then. So many really, really great stories, and I was always kind of afraid of it. And then my publisher, Liz, who, like I said, I'd written 3 books for her, and my editor from almost all of my YA books actually works for Entangled now. And so I'd written like The Mermaids for her. I'd written a couple other books for her as well. And when they came to me and said, "Hey, we really want to bring vampires back, and we think you would be really good at bringing vampires back," and I was like, "Well, I've always wanted to do it, but I'm scared." And yeah, so it was a big decision on my part to do it because they're really big shoes to fill, right? But if you're talking about like ones that I love that are like right now, I'm a huge fan of J.R. Ward's Black Dagger Brotherhood. Have you guys ever read? Right?
Yeah.
I mean, from like they had me at Wrath, but like Zadist was one of my favorite. John Roberts, you know,
wraparound sunglasses.
yeah. There's so many great ones, right? Yeah, so there's inspiration. Christine Feehan's Carpathian series I love as well. Sherilyn Kenyon. I mean, there's just a lot of great vampires out there.
Yes, there are.
Lucky me.
So, Micheline, so can you tell us a little about the stalkers and the Maiden Ship? And I mentioned this earlier. I was like, give me a slow monster any day. The stalkers really freak me out. They're quick. So, can you tell us a little bit about where the inspiration for them came and like just a little bit about them in general?
The funny thing about this is that I'm like really terrified of scary things. So I don't read anything scary or disturbing or watch any movies that are scary or disturbing. I'm like the biggest baby on the face of the planet. And I thought, how on earth am I going to write something scary? Like I knew I had to create villains that created some kind of emotion. Like they couldn't just, be all light and fluffy, right? So I was like, I was really afraid that I would do a horrible job at writing them. So actually to hear you say that you felt like they were scary is kind of like, oh, good. Thank goodness that I made them a little bit scary because I wasn't even sure how I was gonna pull it off. And but I think the main inspiration for them came out of just sort of a lot of the older fantasy books where they're hooded, right, and you can't see their faces, and always that feeling of not being able to see your enemy's face is kind of creepy, right? So I just took that and kind of added to it and pulled the lore and the history of the book into creating them. So if I told you all that, it'd spoil things, but a lot of what they are comes out of that lore, and we learn a lot about it in the next book. But yeah, I'm really glad they were a little bit scary.
It brought back the old nightmares of like the ring race from Lord of the Rings, like hunting me. I was always terrified of them. So, and just let me see if I can get this to clear for y'all. This is the piece that she did, and in the back here we've got one of those little creepies.
Wow.
Yeah, so, they're just fast.
I cannot wait to read this book.
Hunting you all the time. So that feeling too, I thought was kind of frightening, right? If you lived your life feeling always hunted, it would be, yeah, and not by something normal, not just like people hunting you, but something, yeah. So yeah, I'm really glad that they were a little bit scary. Pardon?
That although that would be terrifying too.
Yeah.
It's like my husband loves like horror movies, but the ones that scare him are the ones that are like paranormals because he says he can't hurt those. And I'm like, okay.
I'm as big a wimp as Micheline. Like I'm so bad. Like I have a story I always tell with one of my best friends who also writes horror. Her name is Emily McKay, and we were on tour several years ago together with books. And anyway, Joe Hill, I don't know if you guys know who he is, but he's a horror writer who also happens to be Stephen King's son. And he's so good. I mean, he's so talented. And so anyway, a friend of mine had read him, and I was like, she's like, Tracy, you got to read him. He's just a brilliant writer. And I'm like, okay, I'm in, but I'm a giant wimp. We need to clarify this. So anyway, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna read this. Like, we're on tour, so I pick up. I think Heart Shaped Box. I'd picked up at the bookstore we were signing at that night. We get back to the hotel, and I'm laying in bed, and Emily's next to me and we're sitting there, and I'm reading. I'm like, Emily, it's so good, and I like start reading passages to her. She's like, I don't want to hear about this. You need to stop. Casey, you need to put that to bed. We're gonna have a problem here. You need to, I'm like, no, it's fine. I'm not scared. Yeah, it's fine. And finally she puts her earbuds in and rolls over and like hides, and she's like, you're not talking to me anymore. I'm going to bed. And I'm like, okay, fine. I'm just gonna stay up and read a couple more chapters. And I read, and I'm like, it's laying like the first half, right? So he's really laying the groundwork and building the world and all that. And it's not that scary. I'm like, it's fine. So I reach over and I turn the light off. And I swear to you, the moment I turned the light off, I like froze. Like I laid there in the covers, like, because I couldn't even put my arm back out to like turn the light back on. I was too scared. And I laid there like this for 3 hours until she got up, like pee or whatever. And I'm like flying out of bed. I'm like, oh my God, you have to turn the light. Please don't leave me like this. And she's like, I told you. I warned you. I had to like leave in 2 hours to drive to where we were going to sign the next day. Yeah, it was horrible. Horrible.
That's funny. That's exactly what I'm like. I cannot. I'm not scared reading Harry Potter books. Like reading Harry Potter, and I was terrified. Like
Dementors are terrifying things.
Oh my gosh, what is wrong with me?
You're like, these are for 10-year-olds. What's the problem? I'm with you.
So yeah, creating villains when you're this, soft of heart is not an easy task.
I love it though. I create like the worst villains. Like I'm like, oh yeah, but they don't scare me because I guess because my imagination, like everybody else's scare me, but mine don't scare me. People like, oh, mine are just fake. They're just made up. Everybody else is terrifying, but mine is not.
Okay. This one's for Tracy. I'm a big vampire fan myself. I read like pretty much everything you listed earlier. I've read them. I just like to add Laurel K. Hamilton to the end of that.
Oh, well, yeah, of course. I can't believe I missed her, of course.
She's my number one. But one of the things that I'm really interested in knowing is how you kind of made your own place in the world of vampires. You kind of touched on that a minute ago, but I wanted to talk about it a little more. Vampires are, really well known. So how do you go about making your own story unique and, separate from all the rest of them? Did you find Jackson and Grace as characters first and then build the story around them? Or did you have an idea of the boarding school full of magical beings first and then created a place for them to exist?
I say both, which I know makes no sense at all. I've always wanted to write a vampire book. I've always wanted to write a boarding school book. I never ever thought they were the same book. I actually have 3 boarding school books started on my computer that never really went anywhere. I'm like, I haven't found this yet. And then when we were talking with Liz, the editor or my publisher at Entangled, and I were talking, I was like, what about a boarding school? And she's like, oh my God, I love that. That seems like a great idea. Let's do that. I said, but I wanted to have all the different creatures in it because I love paranormal creatures. I love dragons. I love witches. I'm not as big a fan of werewolves, but I'm learning to appreciate them.
I'll send you some recommendations. I'll help you out with that.
Oh, excellent. I'm a huge Nalini Singh wolf shifter fan, but actual werewolves are a little different. In my mind, I like the wolf shifters better, which is why that's what's in my book. So I knew I wanted to do boarding school, and that's all I knew. And I wanted to have a bunch of different creatures. And then I'm always very character driven. So I always start out with characters. So Grace just started talking to me right away in my head. Boy, her voice never changed. It was exactly how the first day she started talking to me. And Jackson evolved a little bit because early on I used to write really big alpha heroes, and he still is, right? He's tough, and he's got a lot to do, and he's got a journey and all that, and but he's more of a reluctant hero, more of a reluctant warrior, I think, that he is like the bad boy I had originally thought he was going to be. But I found that as I've gotten a little older, I tend to really like good guys. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I like guys that are just really decent human beings or vampires. And for him, I really wanted. I love the reluctant prince idea. You know what I mean? The one who, the reluctant hero, the hero who steps up even though they don't want to because they know that somebody's got to do it. Like things have to be done, people have to be saved. Nobody else is stepping up. I'm going to do it because it has to be done. You know, I love that character. And that's kind of what I wanted for Jackson, is to be that. And one of my fans described him as a badass vampire who's really just a big marshmallow on the inside. And I love that because that's kind of exactly who Jackson is. He has to make these really hard decisions and he has to do these things, some of which are really bad things. And he doesn't necessarily like himself for what he feels like he has to do. That's his duty. But on the inside, he has a really strong moral code and he's actually a really decent person. But yeah, big shoes to fill. And for me, it was this whole idea of I didn't want to do it unless I could bring a new spin to it.
Mm-hmm.
And so after I had my characters, I spent a long time really thinking about what it is I wanted to do. And we didn't get to see as much of it in the first book because it was Grace discovering, hey, something's really weird with these people I go to school with. She thought they were aliens, right? Because, you don't go to school and think, oh, yeah, a vampire, of course. She was like, are you alien? Just tell it to me straight. But, something's not right here. I know this. And so anyway, I think you're going to see a lot more of the world and the story that I built really in book 2 and 3, but definitely in book 2. And I'm not allowed to give much of that away, but I did not want to do it unless I had what I thought was a unique take on it, because otherwise I'm just doing what somebody else has done and probably not as well. There's a lot of really great writers to follow in.
There are, but then every time I find a new one that's got something different to it, I'm like, ooh, that's interesting. So I can't. I'm one of those people though. I grew up in when I was kind of first started picking up books, it was kind of in that that last paranormal push, when Twilight was out, and then romance was big and paranormal. So I think that it's one of those things that I will always be a big fan.
Awesome. So I'm glad to hear that.
The good twist.
As a paranormal writer, I'm really glad.
Yeah. Basically, the good twist to this vampire story is if you fake mean cinnamon rolls with pointy teeth, then you've got Jackson.
There you go. There you go.
Okay, so Micheline. So earlier you mentioned that Micheline is an artist and loved hearing how you got into that. But was this an influence on your characters? Did you come up with the main characters first through art and then you wrote the story? I know you mentioned that you kind of talked about you started writing it whenever you had your first kid. But did you come back and draw them for the first time before creating the story, or did your art help inspire some of your story as well?
Okay, you cut out a lot, so I'll try to answer your question. But I think you were asking me whether I drew the characters first and then wrote. Is that what you were asking?
Or how your art has inspired and helped you build through the story.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I don't think the art helped to build the story too much, actually. Okay. I think it really came after more. The story existed so long ago, long before I ever got into illustration or anything like that. So I think it was really what influenced the illustrations itself, the story. So, and I love, most of my art I create is from books. And I'm mostly inspired by words when I draw. So I definitely say that it comes from my words and then gets turned into art. But it is kind of fun how clothing and things like that develop as you draw, because you don't really always think it fully through in your book you kind of maybe describe what people are wearing a little bit, but you don't have every single detail of their clothes in your head when you're writing them.
Right.
So drawing them after is interesting because then you're like, what was he actually wearing? Like, and that was kind of fun to develop, like the costumes and that kind of stuff.
So gorgeous.
In the artwork than anything. More like the little tiny detail things developed in the artwork more than in the book. I think they were less detailed in the book, and yeah, definitely it's an interesting translation from art to words and words to art. Yeah. It's fun.
I mean, your
though.
illustrations are gorgeous.
Answering that question, well, it was really hard to hear you.
Sorry.
No, it's Megan. I mean, Brittany doesn't cut out very much, but you do a lot for some reason.
I'm winning.
You are winning.
All right, Brittany.
This one is for Tracy. We heard the amazing news about your rights getting sold for the book. Congratulations. Obviously, we want to know more about that. So, how did that happen? And then, how did you react when you first heard about it? And then after that, I want to talk about the game.
Okay. Yeah, it was wild. Like my editor, my publisher, editor, same woman. Pretty much from the time she got the first draft of the book was like, I feel like we've got something really special here. Like, I wanna make sure we send it out. I want to make sure so as soon as it's ready, it's gonna go to the studio. She got her film agent involved and all that. And I was kind of very doubtful. I just was like, 65 books in, this is not my first rodeo, is all I'm saying, right? And then we sent it out. She reminded me the other day, we sent it out on February 18th. And on February 19th, Universal said, we want it. And we want it bad, and we don't want to wait for anybody else. So we're going to give you a really great offer, and we want it. And then February 20th, a couple more people came in and were like, sorry, Universal. And I am thrilled beyond belief. I was like so excited. I like literally spun around in the middle of my family room. I was like tears pouring down my face. I'm like, this can't actually be happening. And it was, and we had to sit on the news until just Monday of this week, right?
Right.
And so we sat on it because Universal really wanted to bring it out with the book. And I had to get, and so my editor was like, it's live, the news just went out. So I went, and suddenly, like, I'm a story, 3 stories on Yahoo and Deadline, and I order, and it starts trending and different languages, and I'm like, because Universal put a big push behind it, and I had to go on in like 45 minutes, and I'm like, there's not enough foundation in the world to cover my cheeks. Like, right.
Oh, that's so exciting.
Oh my god! How much to go sit there and like this thing, like I haven't been able to tell anybody except like my best friend. I feel like congratulations from like writing friends from that I've built up through the years. Just started like pouring in. I'm trying to answer them, and I'm about to go live on this panel for bloggers, and I'm like, oh my god! But yeah, it was really, really exciting. But
we always hear about like
so good.
it was a dream come true. So
okay, the game.
Yeah, the game. I want to talk about Chapters. Chapters is an interactive reading app, and I have already personally played it a few times. I have had to delete it a couple times too because I'm one of those addictive personalities. So apparently I will be re-downloading it again soon. But Chapters is an app, and it's an interactive reading where you get choices. Yes. And they take books and stories and they turn them into interactive stories where you can kind of make choices for you and step into the role of the main character. And there are a lot of really cool ones on there, but there's a brand new one on there called Crave. And
yes.
I wanted you to tell us a little more about that. Are you excited about it? How did that come about?
It's surreal, right? It's so surreal because I am artists feature in almost every single book that I write, but I have no artistic talent whatsoever. So I'm like completely in awe of Micheline. I'm just completely in awe. So I've never seen my world done, outside of my head before. And so when I first started getting the art for the game, because they're like, is this what you were imagining? Is this what you wanted? I was just blown away because suddenly there's here's my world and I can walk through it. My mom was playing it yesterday. It was a lot of fun. My boys are like, okay, I'll play it for you, Mom. And they're like, oh, this is really cool.
You, Mom.
Oh no.
Yeah, and I loved choose your own adventure stories when I was a kid. You know what I mean? Where you get to I think because writers, we always kind of write our own stories anyway. I was writing in my head, I was writing fan fiction long before I ever knew what fan fiction was, right? And so now being able to kind of walk through this world that I've created, and I think they've done such a great job with it. I think the library is, I don't think you guys have seen that part yet, but the library is amazing. I have these tunnels in Crave, and I had based them partly on the catacombs and partly on, there's this church in Prague, the Church of Bones, and it has these huge chandeliers made of human bones. And I had totally kind of based the world under Catmere Academy or under the castle on it, and they just did this incredible job of creating these chandeliers and these skull line tunnels, and it's super exciting. I can't wait for the whole thing because they're bringing it out in chapters, so the first 6 are out, and then the other thing is I got to contribute to the script. Originally, we had talked about me writing the whole script, but it was I have had too much to do. So what they had me do instead is write the choices. So anything that I, approved the whole script, but anything that, when you get to make your choices, they would lay out the choices and I would write all the different dialogue and all the different scenes that went in there. And that was a very different skill than writing a novel. But super fun to do. And now it's super exciting to kind of see it all come to life.
I'm excited to get to try it. I'm gonna wait a little bit because I'm one of those people that needs to wait until there are a few more chapters out.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I went through the comments today, and there's 6 or 7,000 comments up already, and they were all like, "What do you mean? I need more. Wait, you can't leave us here."
I know, and see, I know I'm that person, so I'm I've got to keep telling myself, don't do it. Don't do it.
Don't do it.
Regret it. You'll be miserable. Don't do it yet. But I'm excited to get I'm excited to download it again and read and do some more because I think the last one I downloaded it was when Nalini's book was added on there, so I downloaded it for that and then got lost in that and ended up reading 6 of them.
Nalini is a really addictive writer.
Yeah.
I love her so much. I'm reading Madness of Sunshine right now, which is her new romantic suspense series. And oh my god. But yeah, anything she writes I read. That's just how it is.
Okay, you guys, we have just one lightning round left, and that'll be it. I've just got a couple of quick ones, and then we'll wrap this up. And we did really good on time, wrapping it in 1 hour.
Yeah, nice.
I love how we don't have a time limit, and now we can wrap up in almost an hour. But if we're on Instagram and have a time limit, we can never do it.
Okay,
never.
So let's start with Tracy this time. Hardback or paperback?
Hardback.
Okay. Micheline? Which one?
Paperback.
Okay.
We were just opposites. That's okay.
Tea or coffee?
Tea. Tea.
I think Micheline, we froze her.
I missed it. Sorry again.
Or
I'm
coffee?
so sorry. Here.
You're fine. It's tea or coffee?
Tea or coffee? Tea.
Okay. Bookmark or dog ear?
Dog ear. I'm the worst. I'm the worst. My books look like they've been through a war. I read them in the bathtub.
Okay. I also bookmark on this one.
Do receipts count?
Your face was so horrified. I'm so sorry.
And last but not least, favorite reading snack?
My favorite reading snack? Chocolate. Any chocolate. Chocolate.
I'll say popcorn.
popcorn. That is a good one.
It's a good one.
Okay, you guys, thank you so much, Mr. Tracy and Micheline, for joining us. We've had a blast with you guys. Thank you all for being our first live. We've been so excited for this. And
Well, thank you for having us.
we have
Yeah.
2 giveaways posted on both Facebook and Instagram for you guys to check out about winning some cool prizes from the authors. And we also have all of the links to how to buy their books, how to support them, and where to follow them on Facebook. I'll go back in and just, reinforce and make sure we have a link to where the chapter's name is as well. Otherwise, thank you guys so much for joining us. We've had so much fun.
Well, thank you for having us. And I know I didn't do a picture of the giveaway. Do you want me to flash it up here right now so you can see it?
If you want to,
Sure.
sure. Oh, yeah.
It's the Crave box. Some of you might have seen it around on Instagram. So I'm giving away
So
one of those.
pretty.
It actually has the book, along with some snacks, some reading snacks, and it has a Crave Bite Me thermos as well. So that's my giveaway.
I love that. But yes, we have both links on the page. We have it, I think, in the main Facebook page so that everyone can see it and have access to it. It's also a chance to win on Instagram, so you can have 2 different chances to win by going to both of them. And otherwise, we have the link for you to purchase the books as you should, because they're both so amazing. But thank you guys again. I hope y'all enjoyed it.
Thank you so much. It was really nice meeting all of you.
It's nice to meet you.
Bye, you too.
Take care.
Bye, guys. Bye.